This is a low impact, low intensity, steady state cardio practice for any time in your cycle. I've designed it specifically for the bridge between cycles that happens in your premenstrual and menstrual phases. But really, anytime you're looking for a lower intensity practice, this is a great one to turn to. We're going to cultivate a lot of core strength. We have slow fluid movement through all planes of motion. This one is really a very well-rounded practice that you can do body weight only, or you have the option of adding very light weights in our middle round, so the second of 3 rounds. If you are adding weights to that, I would stay on the lighter side, so something between 1 and 3 pounds. You might even use light wrist weights or ankle weights to provide just that little bit of extra resistance so we can kind of follow the arc of our practice in that peak challenge before we come back down. So we're using the first and last rounds of today's workout as a warm-up and cool down. So this one is standalone. You won't find a separate warm-up and cool down for today. It comes in right at 30 minutes. We have 10 total body movements that will really look to stimulate circulation. We're working upper and lower body together. So this is a very grounding practice that's going to help you build some heat from the inside out without being overly intense. So you're not going to leave it all on the table. I want you to have lots of energy left in your tank at the end of this practice. This is particularly important during that bridge between cycles. So as our hormones are dropping, there's a lot of work that's happening under the surface, and we don't want to compete for resources with that important reproductive priority. So we tone it down. We're staying in the 50 to 65% zone for our heart rate. So you should be able to breathe freely and fluidly throughout. You should walk away feeling warm and energized, but not depleted. You won't need, again, any equipment for this practice except the addition of those very light weights if you wish to add them in the second round. No workout preview for today. This is slow enough and low intensity enough that I'll be able to guide you through all of the movement patterns as we progress through the first round. So now let's start this workout. Welcome to your steady state cardio session for today. We are using 3 rounds of body weight exercises with the option to add very light weights in the second round. So we're using the first and last rounds as our warm up and cool down. And then we have 1 to 3 pounds or even wrist or ankle weights if you'd like to add them in that second round. I'll be walking you through all the movements as we go. We've just got 40 seconds of work, 20 seconds of rest. There are 10 exercises total, 3 rounds for a 30-minute workout. So let's get started. We'll have 20 seconds to set up before our first movement pattern, which is a simple chair squat. So we're going to take the arms overhead, sit back into that chair. If the arms overhead is too much, you can always take them in more of a cactus shape. You can bring the hands behind the head or down by your sides. The name of the game today is keeping that intensity low and steady state. So I want you to move slow with intention. Here we go. Let's begin. We sit back and lift up. I want you to keep that spine nice and neutral the entire way down and all the way up. Feet are parallel. We're driving through the heels. Use this first round really just to drop into that state of moving meditation. So really connecting with your breath. Breathe in as you come down and drive through the legs as you stand. 2 and 1. Next up, we have our side lunge to a standing balance. You're just going to come into that nice side lunge and then lift up to standing balance. If that's too much, you're just coming to that standing position, maybe kickstanding that opposite foot. Again, we want to keep the intensity low, so move slowly. Let's begin. Step it out. Come to your balance. Breathe in and out. Catch the landing there, nice soft landing with the foot. So this time in the cycle, this bridge between cycles in the premenstrual and menstrual phases is a time of big hormonal change in the body that can bring on things like inflammation, fatigue, any signs of PMS. So today we're really just looking to promote circulation, to kind of unlock that natural source of energy and not compete Rest for energetic resources. So we're taking our time, slowing things down. Keep an eye on your heart rate, either by just checking in during the rest periods or if you have that heart rate monitor. You want to be around 50 to 65%. Let's get ready. And here we go. Come up, out to the side. Make sure your knee stays over the ankle and toes. So we want all the joints pointing in the same direction so that we're loading that knee safely. Keep the chest lifted here and use the sound of your breath. So let that help you drop into the present moment. Another kind of unofficial symptom that can arise during this time is becoming very analytical or even trending toward anxiety. Rest. So we want to use this workout to help us drop into that more steady state, both mentally and emotionally. Let's get ready for our next exercise. We're coming into a nice star position here. We're going to go across the body to the opposite foot, come up, and then squeeze the chest. So I want you to imagine that you had a little bit of resistance between the hands. So you're really activating the chest here. And then crossing the body. If you need to, you can add a micro bend in those knees if that feels more comfortable. Sometimes this one can be a little spicy for the hamstrings. So in the absence of weight in this round, I want you to really cultivate your mind-muscle connection. So really squeeze the hands together and rest. Next up, we have our reverse lunge to a cross. So you're simply coming back into your reverse lunge and then crossing the body. I want you to stay nice and upright through that whole movement pattern. You kind of start to see our pattern here. We're alternating between single-sided movements and then both together. Step it back, cross. So I don't want you to round the upper spine to touch that knee to elbow, but instead you're really lifting that knee to connect. Keep the lower spine supported by drawing your belly button back and in. And if this is too much with the hands on the head, you can always bring them to heart and just twist. Sometimes that can help facilitate the rotation by pressing your back hand into the front hand. You got this. And rest, shake it out. We'll do the same thing now, stepping back with the opposite side. So just a few shoulder circles here, maybe circle out the hips. Again, you should be breathing pretty easy throughout this practice, nothing too strenuous. Let's get ready. Here we go. Step it back, rotate. I want you to really feel the hip flexors and obliques fire. Use that exhale with the twist each time. You don't have to come too deep in the lunge. You could let that knee hover or even be in higher ranges of motion. What we're really focusing on here is that rotational component. We're here for 5. And rest. Shake it out. Next up, we're coming into our bear plank. So you can come onto hands and knees. We're going to position the knees directly under the hips, shoulders directly over the wrists. Press firmly into your finger pads, tuck your toes. We're going to tap the knees and then straighten the legs. Here we go. Hover the knees. It's a knee tap, and then only the legs. Straighten, come back down. Tap, tap, straighten, and come back down. So in that leg extension, it doesn't turn into downward dog. We want to focus this movement on the lower body so the upper body stays fixed and you're just straightening those legs, activating the quads with some power, with intention. Again, imagine you were moving against some resistance here and rest. Slowly come down, coming into our side plank with a knee hug. Lots of options for side plank. If your wrists are sensitive, you're coming onto your forearms. If you feel any strain in your lower back, you're letting your knees come down into more of that half side plank and just hugging the top knee. Otherwise, you're in full side plank and we're hugging the knee in. So again, same kind of movement mechanics here. We really want to bring the knee to the elbow. You're pressing down into the floor with that bottom hand and foot, creating this beautiful arch in the underside of the body. Inhale, exhale. Take your time. Sometimes I feel myself kind of rushing from one rep to the next, but we can slow it down today and rest. We'll switch sides. So again, you have your options. You could be with the knees down, lifting the knee here. You could be on your forearms, lifting the knee here. Lots of options to make it work for your body on this day. Let's come up and begin. Draw that knee in and extend. We're closing out our first round here. We have one more exercise after this. And then you have the option of grabbing those very light weights, only if they allow you to stay in that mid-level intensity. So 50 to 65% of your max. Nice, easy, even breath here. Make sure you're pressing down into the floor. And rest, come down. We're going to lower onto the back now. A couple of different options. You're either doing an alternating toe touch or knee tap. So we're on the floor, arms are overhead. It's either touching the toes or tapping the knee. So either way, depending on what feels better in your body. Let's reach overhead and begin. Lift up, toe touch. I want you to keep your hips and the opposite foot down the entire time so that we can isolate the abdominal muscles. Reach and lift. Try to really lift the center of the chest up so you're not rounding the upper back at the top. Breathe in and out as you come up. Last one. Excellent job. Take your time as you transition out of this seated position back to standing. You can find and grab your weights. So we're doing those 10 exercises for this middle round, but this time optional weights. So I'll walk you through any changes we have. They'll mostly be the same exercises. Chair squat, here we go. We lift it up and come back down. Make sure you're keeping that spine neutral. Send the thumbs behind you so you get that spacious quality in the shoulders. So our weight training in the menstrual phase can and should look different than our weight training in the follicular phase. So here we're not focusing on building new muscle tissue necessarily. We just want to keep the muscles awake and online, rest. So that when we jump into the follicular phase, one, we're not depleted, we're not coming back from a deficit, but we're also not coming back from 2 weeks off either. We're still very much in the practice of strength training. Next up, we have our side lunge to a standing balance. You can add a curl if you wish. We're going to step it down, come up, optional curl. Frame your foot at the bottom, come up nice and straight and curl. You can kind of take out the hard edges here, lifting the knee and those arms together in unison. Nice fluid motion here. Catching that landing. And even if you're bringing the weights down to frame the foot, make sure you're keeping your chest lifted. Try to take out any urgency that you might experience. Rest. There's a time and a place for that pace and that speed, that intensity. But today we want to keep things even, steady state. You want your heart rate to be in that sweet spot the entire time. Let's get ready for the second side and begin. Step it out. Option for that curl up. So you should feel a nice stretch across the inner thigh here. And again, keep it slow and controlled. So you are pushing off that working leg, but with control. So we're not just driving the knee up. We are carrying it with control, floating into position, and then landing nice and gentle on the floor. Again, here, you're not looking to create that muscle fatigue in the biceps or the inner thighs, just looking to keep circulation flowing to the upper and lower extremities, working that efficiency in the heart and promoting circulation, which is one of our best antidotes to stress in this time in the cycle. Arms out to T, and we're going to cross to the opposite foot. Come through center, squeeze those weights together if you have them. Open, stretch the chest. Tap the opposite foot, come up and squeeze. Again, if you feel any discomfort in the lower back or the hamstrings here, I want you to add more of a micro bend into the knees. Open it up, stretch, and squeeze. Cross the body, open, and cultivate that strength. Excellent job. Come up. Coming into our reverse lunge with that elbow cross next. So I like to have the weights at my chest with the elbows kind of wide, and you're squeezing the weights to the center the entire time. You're going to step back into your lunge and then cross the body. Let's get ready and begin. So we step it back and cross, elbow to opposite knee, right into the next. And if you need a little bit of a pause before the cross, you can add that toe tap in between and give yourself a little more balance support if it's feeling a little bit unstable. Spine stays nice and straight. The weight adds just a little bit more complexity. You're moving the center of gravity a little bit. Last 2 and 1. Shake it out. We'll come into the second side next. Same thing here. Shake out your arms. Roll out the hips. And bring your weight into position. And we'll get started in 5. Nice deep breaths here. Slowing it down if you need to. If you feel that heart rate creeping up a little bit too high, you can always slow the pace or drop the weights. This is all low impact, so it's a great way to keep your body moving during the menstrual phase. Not overly demanding, so we do have total body movement, so there is a significant energy demand, but we're keeping it slow and low. It's not that fast twitch muscle work. Instead, we can take our time. Last 2 and 1. We're coming down to bear plank next. You can take or leave the weights for this one. If it adds too much imbalance when you're doing your knee taps, I would set them off to the side. And if the knee taps are too much, you can always take this to shoulder taps instead. Let's get ready, bear plank. We tap the knee, straighten the legs only, so upper body stays fixed. Tap, tap, and extend. The goal with your bear plank, especially in those knee taps, is you're not letting the hips or the shoulders rotate. They're staying even and in alignment the entire way through. Bear plank. I didn't know bear plank existed for many, many years, and now it's quickly become rest one of my favorite movement patterns. I find it so supportive for the body and so empowering because it allows you to connect immediately to the core. So, that's why you'll see it in so many practices in the Luné library. Side plank is next. Remember your options. And let's begin. Draw that knee in and reach it overhead. Need to reintegrate my shoulder here. So if you feel any pinching in the shoulder, I want you to take that arm out in front of you, plug it back in. Sometimes that can alleviate any impingement you might get in the shoulder joint. It'll allow you to take the arm overhead a little bit more freely. Sometimes the upper arm gets a little bit unplugged from the shoulder, and that can create pinching or tension. And come down. We'll switch sides. So again, that top arm, take the upper arm and plug it back into the shoulder. That'll give you so much more range of motion when we take that arm overhead. We'll come into position here. Again, you can have your knees up or down and begin. Elbow to knee, reach it overhead. Now we're closing out round 2, and then we get to drop the weights, and we have just one more round to go. I find 30 minutes is kind of that sweet spot. It's just long enough, but not so much that you are kind of compressed for time or energy. It's one of those practices you can squeeze into any busy day. Last couple reps here and rest. Toe touch is next. Again, if the toe touches too much, you're taking it to the knee tap. So we'll lower onto the back. You have the option of adding the weights. You're going to take them overhead, stretch the body nice and long, and then we'll lift up. Curl the pubic bone toward your belly button and begin. We'll lift it overhead and touch. So this one kind of firing up the back body here as well as the core as we take those weights overhead. I want you to keep drawing the front ribs down and in so that you're not puffing the belly out as you come up. I want you to think quite the opposite, like you're hugging the belly in and down instead of puffing up and out. Last one. Take your time now as you set your weights off to the side and we get ready for our third and final round. I want you to think of this as a cooling round so you can slow things down even more. Really focus on connecting movement to the breath. So mapping your movement to your inhales and exhales. Chair squat is first. We come up and back to standing. So here, just feel that shift from kind of our working mode, kind of that steady state, and then back down. You might feel some nice heat creeping up in the body, but it's that slow burn. We're here for 5. Nice and straight at the top. And rest. Shake out those shoulders. We'll come into our side lunge to a standing balance. Again, if the balance is too much, you're just coming with the toes there to support your balance, or you've got that leg lifted. Let's get ready. Here we go. Take it down and come up. You can still keep that curl motion as if you had the weights, if you like, almost like you're lifting the knee and then sending it back down. So you lift the knee up and then place it gently back to the floor. We are in our third and final round. Hopefully you're feeling like this movement is stirring up some energy, maybe clearing some brain fog, so your mind becomes a little bit more open. And rest, shake it out. Come into the second side next. So again, you're in that sweet spot for your heart rate. So you're not gasping for air. You're not really needing a full recovery period in between exercises. It's just enough to transition and get set up. Come to the second side. Here we go. Step it out. Lift that knee. As you come down, make sure you're keeping the chest nice and lifted. You might gaze out in front of you so that you have that deep, full body breath coming in and out. You can tone the biceps a little bit at the top of this movement, squeezing the hands toward the shoulders, hugging the elbows into your sides. Just getting a little bit more from every rep. And rest. Our windmill with that chest fly is next. So feet are slightly wider than hips width. You can have your toes turned slightly in, your heels slightly out. And again, add that micro bend in, especially if you feel any pulling on the lower back or the hamstrings. Let's open it out, feel that stretch across the chest, and begin. Cross the body, come through center, squeeze the hands together. I want you to really press the palms together in the center, then open it up. As you do this, squeeze the shoulder blades onto the back. Open and close. Find that nice fluid breath rhythm. We're here, just 5 more seconds. Let's get one more great rep in. And shake it out. Reverse lunge to our crosses next. So again, you can have your hands behind your head, or you can bring your hands to your heart. Sometimes I find this helps because you can really push the hands into each other to get a deeper twist. Let's get ready. 3, 2, and 1. We take it back and cross. So the knee stays in that square alignment. So you're not taking the knee across the body. The elbow is crossing. So I want you to keep your hips nice and square, nice and even, and let all the work happen in the core and the upper spine. And get some power with your breath. Those strong exhales through pursed lips. That'll help draw the belly in and keep your lower spine supported. Shake it out. We have the second side of that movement pattern, and we're coming in down the home stretch here. Gather your breath, come into position. Let's go in 3, 2, 1. Step it back, cross the body. You got this. Let's finish with expert mechanics, total embodiment. You are present for every part of these exercises. Not checking out, but instead we're dropping in. Find that breath. Make a sound. We're just here for 10 more seconds. Keep that back nice and tall at the top. And rest. Shake it out. We're going to come down to the mat for our bear plank. So knee or shoulder taps here. And then you're extending only the legs. So I don't want you to take this to downward dog. I want the shoulders to stay directly over the wrists so that you're keeping it in the quads. Let's hover the knees. Tap, tap, and extend. It's all quads. It takes a lot of upper body control to not let the shoulders slide back when the hips are lifting and the legs are extending. I want you to keep that here, that strong alignment. You got this. Let's finish this final set nice and strong, nice and steady. Come down. We've got our side plank. We'll do it on each side. So again, you can be on your forearms, you can have your knees down, or you can be up on hands and feet. Let's get ready. We'll move in 5 seconds. Take that top arm overhead again. Plug that arm in so that you have full range, full expression in the shoulder. So this time, you can allow that knee to open a little bit, get more of the external rotation in that top hip. Slightly different than our knee cross, where the hips were staying square. We were in the front of the body. Now we're allowing it to open to the side, targeting more of the obliques. Last few reps here. And come down. Let's switch sides. So some nice and easy transitions. So close to the end of our practice today. We'll move in about 10 seconds. So you can kind of stretch it out, get set up, make sure you've got your alignment where you want it. And then we will come into position. Side plank. And draw that knee in. Squeeze and return. Make sure that you're keeping the shoulders stacked, whatever arrangement you're in with the arms and legs, and that your hips are stacked with this nice open quality across the front of the body. Slow down that breath rate here. Move with intention. And come down to your seat. Final exercise now, either those knee taps or toe touches. Again, we're keeping the intensity low. So if you feel this as strain in your hamstrings, I want you to keep the knees bent and just focus on the core activation. Here we go. Reach those arms overhead and let's lift. I want you to reach the fingertips and the chest nice and high. Try to lift up without letting the legs or the hips pop. You stay in control the whole way up, the whole way down. So you can feel that transfer of energy as the abdominals contract. Imagine almost like someone had a string just lifting fingertips and toe tips up toward the sky. Last one. And rest. You can take your hands behind you. Just windshield wiper your knees a bit side to side. We use that last round as our cooling round. We'll just take a few final movements here to stretch it out. You can cross at your legs. Just a few rounds of cat and cow in a seated position. So as you inhale, lift up through the heart and exhale, round in. Inhale, open, lift the chest. And exhale, round, curl from the tailbone. Draw the belly back an inch into chest. Last one like this. Big breath in. And exhale, round. Let's take one more. That felt really good. Soften the shoulders, lift the heart, and round it in. Nice job. Make your way nice and easy to a forward bend. So deep bend in the knees, let your head hang heavy. Give the upper body to gravity here. And then as you inhale, halfway lift, hands to shins or knees. And then we'll slowly come all the way up to standing. Let's enjoy a closing breath together. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, sigh it out. That is your low intensity, steady state cardio practice for today. I hope it has awakened a new sense of energy. Hopefully you feel better, more elevated after the practice than you did when you began. And you feel that warmth, that heat and circulation that's going to promote healthy flow days to come. So I want to thank you for showing up, for being here for this practice, and for letting your body be moved.